Sigmas, I'm bringing you real wisdom today and a spiritual depth that has enabled me hugely on my journey and my spiritual elevation. I can say that Edison, as a fellow Virgo, has enabled me to think outside of my circumstances by understanding that noni, mind, is all. And that when we go inside, we actually have the capacity to create the reality that we desire, irrespective of bombs, haters, misguided personalities, economic circumstances. What Edison's classes in Ancestral Essence actually taught me was that I have the power, by utilizing my ancestors, to bend the frequency of my environment to favor me. So, and I'm not blowing smoke up his backside. So I'd like Edison to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about the introductory course. But I cannot overestimate the value of the concepts that were opened up to me, the relationship I gained with my ancestors, and the ultimate power that gave me in the world to operate at a practical level. Please, Edison, I defer to your wisdom, sir.
Thank you for the introduction, Dean. That was marvelous. In truth, only unless you go on these courses and you have these conversations can you really appreciate the depth of what Dean is trying to convey. In truth, the going within was something that on my own personal journey, I had to master. And when everyone said, go within, go within, go within, they never really explained how. And they didn't explain what you're supposed to find when you get there. And when you do get there, how you're supposed to use the power that you have within yourself. We've been doing these courses for nearly 10 years now. And our principal aim was really to control the conversations that you are having inside of yourself. Defer to the greater wisdom you have within. Everyone does it every day, all the time, 24 hours a day. You're constantly in conversations. You're constantly using your imagination to deal with your life equations. And all we're really trying to do is to have you identify first who you're speaking to and see the actual volume of what you can create. Your mind, as Dean said, is really your operating system. It's that which is enabling you. And because of Dean's already given me the criteria for today, we're not holding back. So we're not going to be talking about praying for this card, that situation, this scenario. It's really seeing how you as the individual create your own reality within your own mind. There is no out there. I know a lot of people say there is no out there. And when we actually say that, everyone's confused. They're thinking, of course there's out there. I'm seeing something. Let's start off. You can't be what you see. You create what you see. You create what you hear. You create what you feel. You create what you smell. This is information. We spoke about it before, Dean, downloaded from your environment. And then your mind creates everything. You're living in your theater, and your theater is in your mind. That image you're seeing is your collection of your interpretation of the information that is swirling around your head. And you're trying to streamline it into an image which you can then use to calculate what you need to do next. You're almost like in a perpetual state of, what do I need to do? Here is all the information. This is in the most simplified form so that I can get to a destination. But the destination will always be yourself and the much deeper, greater knowledge that you have within yourself. So yes.
Yeah, and it is getting back to source, because one of the most powerful things that you said to me is there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with your story. And that means something happened to you. So when we think about these punishing voices that we revisit ourselves in our internal monologue, you might do it 34 times, you might do it 1,500 times for one incident. Imagine you would never chastise anybody 1,500 times for one incident over the course of a decade, but you'll do that to yourself. And once you can come to embrace the concept that there's nothing wrong with you, there's something wrong with your story, and that means something happened to you. You start to have an understanding that you can sit outside of time and become the observer of the thought. And when you become the observer of the thought, you stop judging yourself and you put it into context. And that's where the healing starts. But outside of the healing at a psychological level, you now start to vibrate the understanding that you have of yourself based on that healing that you've rewarded yourself with.
It's so hard, because if people appreciate that they actually impact their environment as you think, you create your path, which means what is your most deepest, most cherished, most unfortunately negative thought has a magnetic potential, and it's pulling towards you the ingredients to be able to work that situation out. So if you're in a negative thought, you're going to have more negative scenarios pop up in your mind, which your spirit or essence or consciousness is trying to use those events to try and work out the best solution. Yeah. Your mind is not in time. Your consciousness is not in time. You had to be educated to what time is externally. So from when you had to be educated about a thing, it's not natural. The total aim really is for you to be able to see yourself in a chair, observing reality and having control of what you create. You are blank, one piece of essence, and you've created everything else. This is hard to convey. And as Dean was saying, most people are suffering from their own forms of trauma and their own judgments. Heaven and hell are just two parts of your memory. Yeah, either you're in a heaven state memory or a hell state memory, and you're constantly, as Dean is saying, replaying. As a result, sometimes, how do you say, if you're feeling down, you're going to use a good memory as like a sweet, a placebo, a coffee, a tea, to continuously drink it so that you can maintain the actual emotions within your body.
Yeah.
The same thing for a negative thought. You're going to basically do everything you can to run away. But guess what? The same way what you consume physically is basically nothing compared to what you consume mentally. And the same way your body wants to eliminate food, your mind wants to eliminate thoughts. So it's constantly in a situation where it's bringing these thoughts up, hoping that you're now at the wisdom where you can now think of a way of diffusing your own thoughts and images within yourself to prevent the frequency of emotion that you're now permeating throughout your whole system. Your whole body is traumatized. Every cell in your body has a thinking aspect to it. And when you have a negative thought, you disperse it through yourself. That's where the whole concept of feeling and sensation comes from. Energy, emotion, but it's intelligence. It's your understanding that goes to every cell. Not one part of you is traumatized, all of you, but you are the guiding God. You are the consciousness inside. And with your thoughts, your feelings change.
And by going inside, we have to understand that we are the director of the movie. It's like having a car and not understanding what the brake is for. That is all gas and no brake, and that we actually have the capacity to stop it, irrespective of whether we have the knowledge to stop it. So, you know, after all of the traumas that I'd realized in my life, from parental, through school, through road, through failures in business, failures in relationships, it's the wisdom to give yourself permission of forgiveness based on understanding, pump the brakes. Now you can observe everything because you're aware that you're in control. And what it does is it actually gives you the capacity to understand that you're in control. Because before that, the vehicle is just going and it's going. And because time is now physical, our understanding of it is physical. Well, how do I take time out of being physical to go inside to say that I'm now outside of time? Because I call myself a man outside of time. I'm not operating on your time. I work from an unconventional wisdom that many may not be able to grasp. Now, that doesn't make me intelligent. It just means that I have to go through several iterations of the unconventional wisdom that I have in order to better convey it.
Yeah.
And then when I can convey it to the lowest common denominator, I've achieved my objective, because it wasn't that they were unintelligent. It's just that I was too convoluted. So
yeah, it's interesting. I love the saying that breaks. Yeah, because people are of the opinion, once you understand that you're the consciousness, once you understand you're the creator of every image, every sound, you then have the capacity to realize, stop. I can stop creating this thought. I can hear information. I don't need to take it through the whole judgment cycle. Because you take it through, first you perceive it, then you judge it, then you create the emotion, then you flood your body with it. You can stop it at the point of creation. It's like someone saying, I don't eat a certain type of food. When they're about to do that, they've written a program within themselves to be able to stop, evaluate, recognize, and remember what that does to their system, and no longer go forward with that. So your consciousness, when you're at that level and you now realize you're creating everything, you now have then the capacity to basically stop an emotion from manifesting within you. Stop creating self-trauma within yourself. Now, it's something we spoke about on the courses where we start talking about your multi-personality being. And each personality that you create is a management system to deal with a certain moment. So when you're with your parents, your family, your friends, you evolve, you morph into different characters. And each character has its own capacity to learn and its own capacity to emotionally be able to handle itself. So when you're at work, you have all the information pertaining to work in your mind constantly ready, available, because that's the personality you're playing. As soon as you leave work, you rarely bring up that information. You don't talk about it, especially if you're in a specialized field. You go into another personality. Now, that personality might not be as strong as the work one. And you may be emotionally handled from when you was a child. So therefore, you've been taught to be quiet. You've been taught to be submissive. So you ultimately, in other environments, are just not as strong because that personality isn't there. And as a result of every relationship you've been in, the person you was in that relationship, that personality stores within you as a file, waiting to be used when similar circumstances turn up.
Yeah.
That's why the person who you start off with might not be the person you end up with. And over 5 years, the person looks the same, but the consciousness and the overriding program has totally changed. So you're no longer talking to the person you once upon a knew. You're now talking to someone who, through environment circumstances, has created another personality to deal with you so that it can actually still grow in itself. If you have people that restrict you to their emotional whims, over a time, your body's going to become sick of the trauma, of the toxicity of their emotional whims. And then you then, not through any sort of control, because you still may love the person, but your body needs to leave. Your body needs to go for your sake and for you not to spoil. One of the things that we find that we hold on to and is our most precious commodity is our good memories. And our good memories with people. So if you've had a great time with someone, situations, you use those thoughts as placebos, as medicine when you're not going through the best of times. So when you have to break away from that situation, you almost find it hard to say, well, if I'm not good with this person, can I still use the good memories I had with them to help me go through a situation?
Exactly.
So we find that those personalities can dwell back into your past relationships, start to compare them, and then create a situation where out of fear of the past, you destroy the present.
Yeah. And I think most of us have experienced that on some level. And it's really just having the clarity of somebody saying that you deserve to reward yourself by stepping outside of the situation and taking the judgment out of it. We've all been in that situation where somebody has made us feel small. And if it's external, you know that there's somewhere you can come for alleviation from the pain that you get from that trauma.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if you are coming home into an environment, it's very hard to actually get over that. So what you've got to know, and this is where I talk about living outside of time, is that I'm in control, and there is a point where this will end. And I'm going to be the person who is in control, who will end it. This is where we empower ourselves. And even the person, what will enable you to gain empathy for them is understanding that they have a trauma that they're actually inflicting on you. And I often say that although we might not realize that we may not enjoy something, but if we do something habitually, we get a payoff from it because we've done it long enough and it becomes a culture.
You know, that's the hardest thing though, Dean, because sometimes the payoff is just really the avoidance of external or more pain. So there's no actual future reward. There's more just immediate pacification in the moment.
Yeah.
And literally being so afraid of the person's reactions that you basically hide yourself and do what is required to avoid you actually basically seeing that personality within them come and see you as fresh meat to devour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing of traditional African men who will see you, because it's frequent that people talk about men being violent in society. But what isn't discussed so much is the man who just shuts down and doesn't speak for that reason.
Look, so many of us literally have worked out the path of least resistance. And sometimes silence is your only way of maintaining the fire, because fire requires oxygen to get bigger.
Absolutely.
So the more you speak on that situation, the larger the fire gets. So after a while, you realize, and this is where what we're always trying to do is go behind the scenes. Look at what personality is created, how it's literally controlling this person and forcing them to play out a version of themselves that 5 minutes later they're not going to be. 5 minutes later in a conversation, you can three different people in the same conversation and go, huh, what happened there? Where did that one come from? Where did this one come from? And then you start to realize, and this is something we go in when we start talking about the narcissist energy. And one of the recent ones we did, we explained that there's the two versions. There's the overt, of course, but there's also the passive one that is more prevalent. The one that just lets everyone do what they like, lets everyone go. And they hope if they treat you well, you'll basically change and treat them well. Their love is not demanded, it's hoped for. And they equally go through the same pain as the other person or the other version. And the other version isn't anything negative in that way as well. It's negative maybe to the people that encumber that. But then internally, we found that it's literally that person protecting the memory of who they was as a child. And they've created a separate personality to act as the warrior. And this separate personality is effectively trying to destroy anyone that might come and remind them of what they've been through. So they're not really bad. They're protecting themselves. The only thing is, because we've linked it to this ADHD thing as well, and realize that
a nonsense.
Well, no, it's a nonsense in the sense that this is the term they've used.
Exactly.
These people,
and that's my only point, not about the actual personality.
Yeah, the actual personality thing, because you find that the person has a scattered mind. Which means that they can't actually focus and complete a thought like other people have the capacity to do. So therefore, in order to balance and keep some sort of ego paradigm, they will switch it on you. They will use you as a vehicle to be responsible for fixing all the aspects of themselves, which they don't actually have the control to do so. And use the simple methods of being able to shame you, guilt you, keep telling you horrific stories and things like that, and putting you in a position where you shut yourself down to rise them up. And you can do this unto the point where you've lost sense of yourself. And once you lost sense of yourself, you have to pull back, not because you don't want to, you don't like them, but there's a survival of your own mind. Eventually,
self-preservation
has to kick in.
110%.
Yeah. So when we're trying to push this go within, it's really to separate yourself from your creations. You can't look at a picture and be a picture, which means that what you're looking at, you've had to process and manifest. Yeah, the best way we describe the outside world is you're living in a world of Wi-Fi. Your smart TV has the capacity to take all the channels in. And once it takes all the channels, it decides what you decide what you want to see on the screen.
Okay. Yeah. We've actually got someone, King Kale, who's got a question for you. Sure. I have a question for Edison. Which of them is more the solution for our minds? Ifa or Ogu?
Ogu, what's the second one? Ogu, is that Ogu? I'm not sure if that's the Haitian thing. I don't like to say different things for what have. If I don't know what it is, I won't claim to know. But Ogu sounds like an energy in the Haitian, not Haitian, I mean voodoo. Yeah. In honesty, all of these systems are templates to help you work out to get to the connection of your consciousness. So therefore, there's not one better than the other, especially if your ancestors practiced these things, which means that these energies will be in your bones, will be in your system. It's not a comparison thing. People that study Ifa, which is where I come from more mainly, we're in a situation where we realize we can't understand everything that has been put down. But at the end of the day, these are stories to help you focus your consciousness to enable you to travel into the different dimensions within yourself. We don't teach
it's an Igbo practice.
Sorry, say that again, please.
An Igbo practice.
Oh, an Igbo practice. Well, again, everything is connecting to your ancestors, but you have to remember you are your ancestors. Every power and ability that they have, you just forgotten how. All it really is once you understand the level of your creation, the level that you can manipulate reality around you, and the level of which you've been taught as a child to externalize your consciousness or your power into some sort of external religion. So now you're in a situation where you have to lean on that religion to get something within yourself. So from when you call on God, whatever name you want to call on, you've externalized your own power. You've externalized and now put the idea of your things, everything changing within you in this external idea. Yeah. The problem with this external idea, it doesn't exist outside. Yeah. The idea basically was created so that when you wanted to go within yourself, you went to this idea. Yeah. And instead of you basically drawing on the power of yourself, you went to this idea to give yourself permission. Yeah, I love the analogy of the 100-meter race. I always say when everyone is, before they start the race, they do the cross and they do all of this, and Jesus is going to help us. And only one of them can win the race. So God only helped one and failed the other 9. No. God is the winner in the concept, but the one who trained the hardest won. Yeah. And that's really everything that you ever need to understand. What you put into yourself is what you're going to manifest as a magnetic potential to pull towards yourself what you essentially need. It's very difficult. I'm not going to lie, because many of us as a child, especially through education, was taught that we need someone else to give us permission to be ourselves. You go through the whole examination system where someone is saying, based on their facts, their details, their figures, if you don't memorize that and be able to recite it at speed, you're not intelligent.
Yeah.
And then you walk around. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing that's really helped me unlearn and relearn with, I could say Christian brainwashing, but where I am Muslim, where I am Jew, whatever it is, it's the brainwashing of the external, is that I understand our creator to be the womb that births souls. But what we also have to take into account is that that same creator that is the womb that births souls has created all of the universal laws in this domain that it doesn't have to care about the ant farm. So when we're actually praying as individuals to this, no, my job is to give you the experience through your vehicle, the vehicle of your body.
Yeah.
You are here calling on me, and I have given you everything you need in your DNA. Like when you, to put it in a visual way, when you saw Superman and that all of his ancestors were inside of him, all of the information that you need to enable you outside, if you can humble yourself enough, is there. I've given you the conductor to reach them, water. If you can make yourself quiet enough to understand outside of the indoctrination of religion to understand, I have given you breath. If you want to give thanks, thank you for the breath of life. Contact your earthly guides in your ancestors who will carry you through this journey. But when you are praying, you've been actually trained, and please understand that there is no elite who is utilizing what I would call beings, entities, to execute their power. Now,
No.
I have actually contacted these beings who can physically take things in the real world, much older than us, much more intelligent, that I would say leave alone.
Look, it's really funny because those beings are really versions of yourself.
Yeah.
And versions of yourself that you have forgotten that you have the capacity to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really stuck in this perpetual loop of thinking that there is a power outside of us. Look what you said about Superman. All your ancestors are in your DNA.
Inside you. Yeah.
Inside you. So therefore, what you're searching for outside is inside you. Now, the spark of life, the spirit per se, that which gives you that feeling of electricity, energy flowing through you, is an essence within you. It's coming from inside. The fact that human beings aren't plugged into anything and they're generating energy, the energy source is internal, not external. And the thing is, this is where we want to go into the depth of you're creating your reality. So therefore, what you perceive as your reality is the information that you're using to process that picture, what you call seeing.
Yeah.
What you call seeing is your reality. So in order for you to be able to identify certain things happening in the environment, because two people looking at a picture or looking at an environment, based on what they know about that environment, they're seeing two different things.
Absolutely.
They're seeing birds doing this, people doing that. When they're seeing people approach them, if you understand body language and how the person's, you're seeing information come to you that the person who hasn't been informed about that hasn't got the, what you call mental enzymes to break down that situation so that they can see it and extract all the information. So the detailed picture that they're creating in their mind is much more useful, is much more voluminous, and they're in a situation where they can break down things. So you're like, wow, where did that come from? How did you see all of that? It's just that through their experience, their logic, their programs that they use to ascertain a situation enable them to do that. Now, the ancestors or energies or entities haven't got the restriction of the idea of who you think you are, what male or gender or storyline or color or creed or any, they haven't got any of that crap. So they're not using those things as filters to block out the totality of the information. And they realize that the way you think will attract what you see.
Yeah.
Because if you're faithful, you're not going to see the silver lining.
No.
And if you're arrogant, you're not going to see people suffering around you. So really, it's the program you're using to decipher the information you're processing in your mind determines what you see. There is so much more of you that is outside of the realms of religion, this or that or this. Because as soon as you bring one of those titles to the equation, you'll now You're now restricted to the ideas of those who created that equation, that idea, that concept. You're no longer the God, because how can these gods exist if you're the one who is the actual one giving them life? That's why God only lasts a couple of thousand years. Years ago, we've been taught to believe people used to call on Zeus. What happened to Zeus? Did he pack up his bags and leave? No, nobody called him anymore. So therefore, the energy or the reliance on that idea had gone, so that the God external concept had died. Absolutely. And that's really all it is. You have it all there. You can go within yourself. Your ancestors are not some, because people have turned ancestors into religions. And this is very sad.
Based on that Christian limitation.
They've just stretched
turning an ankh into a cross into an ankh, and then applying all of that same iconography and closed thinking. And you do have to totally unlearn and relearn, all of because they are with us the whole time. Everything that we do and practice, they bear witness to. They actually see ahead of us. And as like you say, they want us to win without judgment.
And no connection and no debt. Because the problem that we have is often we accumulate debt by asking other energies to basically help us when we could help ourselves. The problem is we've been handicapped by our trauma, and we've been effectively now don't believe that we have the capacity to generate. Remember, you're only generating what you see in your mind. That's the only reality. And what you see in your mind, when you speak of being out of time, the classic thing, you get up in the morning, you go look in the mirror. How do I look today? Yeah. Because you only have memory of what you looked like yesterday, you don't realize that you're either putting on weight or losing weight. Not till you put on clothes, you said, hold on, when did that happen? Because you're not actually looking at yourself. You're looking at a memory of yourself, and you're comparing it to the new image that you've just created from you looking at yourself, which means that you're only, go ahead.
Sorry. No, please finish, because King Kale asked another question, and it's quite an important one.
No worries. No, you're only ever looking at the images you're creating in your mind. This is the point where we want you to get to. You're trying to fix your story and the stories that you believe in so that they make sense. And you're hoping that by following them, they're going to unlock something in you, not realizing that the fact that you can create them, you're being the thing that you're trying to chase anyhow, the creator.
Yeah.
Okay.
So King Kel said, I've noticed the foundation of our spiritual system was based on metaphysics. However, a lot of our people have become more into European science. How do we get our people back? And I will just start an answer for the question before handing over to you. We don't. We adopt that, because one thing that I have learned in life over 48 years, I cannot taste for you, I cannot learn for you, and I cannot comprehend for you. All I can do is improve myself, and via my demonstration, hopefully it's attractive enough for you to go on your own journey, but there is no substitute for experience. If I am to sip this rum, Edison, although he would love to, will get no enjoyment.
I feel jealous. I feel jealous. I said I didn't bring mine. What's going on? I should have brought mine from. Now I'm saying, I said, why didn't I think of that? That would have been one. But what you're saying is so true. And the thing is, we are trying to manipulate the images we see in our own mind. Metaphysical is that which creates the physical. And the physical, believe it or not, is the image. Yeah, what you're actually seeing is matter. When they say mind over matter, it's mind creating matter, mind processing information and processing and creating an external thing, or you have a creation from the information. So therefore, what you see is matter. Yeah, it's an external creation. It starts within your mind and your process. So the Christian science, or the science, because remember, this is where, again, it's not educated, but the original scientists were the priests. And it's the same thing in the metaphysical world. That's where you get the words canon and all these different things. And you go back that the church had to be separated from the science because they were the first ones trying to manipulate reality.
Absolutely.
What do they call it? Reverend Isaac Newton. Don't get it twisted. He was a priest, and he was one who, again, trying to bend and look for the understanding of life. But he was coming from a religious underground first. So the African piece and the way that they work and the way that the ancient Egyptians worked and all these different things, and this is where the breakdown takes place. They went within themselves and went to dimensions that are not visible to most people. So once they realize everything has a birthplace, and the birthplace is not the physical, the birthplace is the invisible. It's that which isn't said. It's two things coming together to create something. Yeah, light is the collision of two intelligences in the dark, and the light is the spark from those two dark intelligences coming together. So within your mind, you're constantly manifesting everything. All these different situations are taking place where you're using two different energy forces to create the visual image, audio, taste, what have you. Where do you taste? In your tongue, or do you taste in your mouth? In your mind. I say this because once you eat something, you then take the information, take it within your mind, search and see if you found something similar, if you've ate something similar, name what you've tasted. And then after you've named it, that's when you've tasted it.
Yeah.
So that took place in your mind. You had to search within your memory. You just took the data of the food, but you tasted it in your mouth with a sensation that you later on gave through your body. We are the metaphysical beings that we have. In order to live the life, we have to be constantly creating situation. Science had to stop you from looking into your own science. Science of your creative abilities, how you make things manifest. You don't pursue that. You pursue, oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to pray 10 times. I pray to create an image in your mind. You're the one creating the image in your mind every time you think. It's like someone convinced you you were nothing so that they could steal all what you had and sell it back to you as something. So you're now there again. We're looking, what is the right one to follow? Yourself. Yeah. What are the books of the Bible you need to know? The stories of your own life, because that's where the testament of what you got through, what you went through, and those will be the parables you need to be able to work out what you need next. Not that someone had 4 wives or someone did this or did that or whatever, and you become versed and say all of these things, waiting for something to happen within you, and nothing does, because these are stories of other people's lives, not of yours. Then you have to draw inference. It's almost like the hieroglyphs. You would go into one of those temples and you could read the wall round in a circle from right to left, because that is important. Because when it's from right to left, it's your creative mind that is actually basically interfacing with the information. When it's from left to right, it's your stored memory. That's why they had to make sure they educated you, so you used your stored memory in order to decipher something. So you weren't trying to decipher something, you was trying to decipher the information they gave you. So this is where we're trying to say, ultimately, you're the driver of the vehicle. Your body is the vehicle. We want to get to the point where your consciousness, you're actually in your consciousness chair, and you're the one who's deciding what direction to go. When information comes to you, you don't see it as a command, you see it as a choice. You can decide, do I want to consume this, or do I want to let it go? When they say food is thoughts, or thoughts are food, it's not because you eat bad while you're unwell. It's because you think bad, that you look for food that is bad to eat, which makes you unwell. It's your mind state in the beginning that you're trying to pacify. Most of us eat because, oh, what time is it? We're supposed to be eating now. We're supposed to be doing this now. And we're doing it out of habit.
Absolutely.
It's people's, how do you say, people's vices. that
Yeah.
tell you what they're really trying to do. When you're taking a vice, food, person, people, situation, you're trying to alter the biochemistry within you deliberately, where you can numb yourself, sedate yourself, hide in something, hide in someone, hide in a thought, because you're not pursuing your conscious self. You don't like the idea of who you are, so you're looking for other ideas to make you feel better when you can't really face what it is that you are and who you are, and not based on someone's opinion. This is where we want to get behind everyone's opinion. Yeah, get behind everyone's conclusions, get behind everyone's story. So you're starting from source. And when you're starting from source, you then choose what you want to do. And you also, this is the hardest part. If I say to you that a memory is really just an image breakdown process you created and stored. Yeah, so therefore every memory. So when I say I want you to look into the past, you're just looking like a video recorder and you're just rewinding what you've created. That's why whenever you think of the past, it looks exactly as you created it. And when I say I want you to think about where you used to live, if you haven't been there for years, you can only look at your memory. You can only look at, and when you go back into that area, like, whoa, it's changed. I know this, because your memory is a picture, it's a blueprint, it's what you created with the data that was there. When you go there later, the picture is not the same, the data is not the same. And when you're comparing it to your past, it's the change of all of that. Oh, wow, this used to be there, that, and that's what's causing you the feeling within your body. You're now having to revise the data that you stored under that memory of your past to accommodate all the new changes that are there. It's all taking place within you. All the stories are just programs you're using in order to organize your own mind. And they'll always put you in a position where if I sell you an app, I want you to basically pay a license fee, which means that you pay for it every year. The olden days, you bought something and it lasted forever. Now everyone's worked out. No, we got to charge you. You bought a license, which means that you revoke the license if you don't pay it every year. They didn't tell you that that item was $1,000. They told you it was £100, isn't it? So after 10 years, you spent $1,000 on that. They couldn't set you up and tell you at the beginning it was $1,000. They could only tell you it's this fee. Oh, I can afford that. And this is how this world works. They keep giving you ideas, keep making you feel inferior about yourself, because that is the biggest thing. Once you adopt a label, you don't control yourself. That label can be used by other people and they can refer to you as Black people, white people, Chinese people, what have you. And they don't need to destroy you. They just destroy the label you've attached yourself to. And then once they've done that, you're now in a position feeling you need to defend. You don't need to defend anything.
Nothing.
That's just a label someone you've
adopted. It's the rules of the game, though. These are the rules of engagement. We are socially conditioned to capitulate to external forces that actually are permission sets in which we can maneuver. So you said it, because when we talk about brands, I always say the most widely adopted and most successful brand in the world is the Black brand. There's no brand more successful than the Black brand. And because we don't realize, we never were Black. But if we take on that Black brand, we have to take everything that comes with it, positive and negative. So then every negative iconography they make with the Black brand, we have to adopt. And now that we've adopted that, we've got to stand on that. So when you watch our children now who have adopted criminality as a norm, well, that's part of the Black brand. So now you feel good to stand. You feel like you're standing on your square because you're standing on the Black brand, which really is a creation that has nothing to do with you, that we've actually capitulated to adopting.
Mentally, you've now taken on that program label, and essentially someone can dictate your emotional state by attacking that label. You could be sitting there and all of a sudden they show an image of someone who has the same hue as you going for a certain situation, and you feel like that is somehow linked to you.
Yeah.
And someone says, no, it's linked to me, it's this. Do you know what that person has been through? Do you know their history? Do you know their story? Do you know what set of circumstances they went through to be in that position? You don't. Yeah. All you know is the most simple denominator. They look like me. So therefore, I must have an affiliation with them. Yeah. You're a melanated person. Everyone has got a degree of melanin.
Melanin. Yeah.
That's all it is. And that degree of melanin is more connected to the concept of how you absorb information, how you absorb data through the medium of what you perceive as your skin, and how you then have the capacity to create and use that information in different ways. Yeah, your melanin will determine how you process certain things. But more importantly, your consciousness, your mind state has no color, has no bearing. You've adopted all these labels based on someone naming you. Name yourself. Find your own frequencies. Find your own vibrations with your own words. Get into that state where you no longer have someone speaking a language to you, which is really a command situation. As soon as someone's speaking to you,
This programming.
look, the funniest thing is, as soon as they manage to get a child and educate them to speak a certain language, you didn't take on a language, you took on a religion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a language is a religion because a language, in its descriptions of the images inside, basically forces you through someone speaking to you to generate the image that you were educated with, connected with that sound. And if they don't have a sound for a certain image, you're blind to it. You no longer see it. And because you think in that image, and the foundation through your education as a child tells you who's king, who's queen, who's this, who's the police, who's that, you've built this infrastructure of ideas in your mind. And you now, as you travel through life, you travel through your own version of your matrix program. And based on how much you believe in that determines how much you're impacted from what external people are trying to inform you. So when he says he's not in time, he's not in the matrix, he's not in the story where you can tell him that he has to do this or do that. He goes, do I? Really? You enjoy yourself. You go and have a great time following someone else's instructions. Me personally, I'm walking in my own time. So I'm going to get it done when I need to get it done for me. And if you're upset by that, you're not upset by me. You're upset by me challenging the programs you've adopted.
Exactly. I often say I have no monkey in that circus, and you feel free to attend it at your leisure. But I'm not obligated to actually agree with you. And the thing that people have taken on now, because although we're in the age of information, we are more universally adopting what is being laid down for control, where people believe that we are obligated to agree with them. And how would I be obligated to agree with you when I've formed my own mind outside of your indoctrination by unlearning and relearning what benefits me, who I am at source, by communicating with my ancestors? There's no way around that. And I find that the more we become these anomalies, the more they advance the tools to deal with the nature of the threat that goes against the story continuum that they're broadcasting to the masses.
100%. The fact is, the level of creation that you have within yourself can only be directed. The old saying, if you can't beat them, lead them. A situation where now they don't think for themselves, they think through yourselves. Yeah. When we call authority, we're calling the authors of the rituals. And when you get up to go to work every day, it's a ritual. When you're traveling, it's a ritual. When you get there, the ritual that you must respect your boss, you must respect all the people around there, you must try and do as much as you can. These are rituals, these are religions put down. If the word religion, regular, is to bind, these are the binding programs used to actually put you in a state where you feel like if you step out of these things, you're going to get punished like you did at school. So therefore,
Mm.
if you're walking in the format of the concept of time, of the concept of days, on the concept of religions, on the concept of whether you're even male or female. Now, I'm not getting into the concept of they and all that different stuff. This is where people essentially are taking a choice, and I don't mind. They can take a choice, they can say what it is that they want to do. The imposition on others is more the
I'm
issue.
not obligated to agree.
And I'm not obligated to agree to anything. I will treat you as a human being, and I'll treat you as a being. And that's really it. Whatever way you want to be identified. Again, when's the last time you went up to say, I am so and someone, call me this? Don't call me anything else. Otherwise, I'll be offended. You know, if that's the situation, you need to walk away from that person quick, fast, in a hurry, because they are already telling you that they are controlling you and controlling your own capacity to evaluate and think of something for yourself. And this is really what it is. They have created a system where the last thing you're allowed to be is yourself. And the last thing you're allowed to do is think outside of the box.
Absolutely.
The ancestors, like Superman, like everyone, is in you. And they're part of your daily, minute to minute, second to second conversations. Whenever you're thinking or hearing something, the first thing you're going to do is take it to, have I heard that before? Then once you've done that, then if you have, you're going to open up the file of where you heard it before. You're going to play that file and see if you've got any similarities with what you're hearing. You're going to have a discussion with a group of different voices within yourself, and you're going to decide after that how you're going to resave that information with the new data that you've been given, so that if you hear it again, you can retrieve it and go through the whole process all over again. You are the most sophisticated mental computer that is there. And the computer was based on the motherboard, your consciousness. Come on. Yeah, all of this different thing. The actual essence, which holds all the components, holds all the different aspects, gives you the capacity to process this, create images, use the screen. That's your mind. But remember,
and as much as we promote ChatGPT, there is no intelligence greater than this machine. There's nothing that you could command into that AI that you can't visualize in your mind.
You know the worst thing about the AI? It can't imagine what it hasn't been given. So therefore, ChatGPT has to be data in there, put in by someone. They're trying to trick you like it's magical. It's like,
it's not magical.
For someone who just don't want to think. When you put a concept, a term that it doesn't have, it can't create anything. So like any database, it's looking for a term, then it has stored information, which it then retrieves, then it then displays for you. But ultimately, you have levels within you where if someone asks you a question, then you take that. Yeah, your inner voice is like a typewriter. You use it and you type a message into the deeper consciousness of yourself. And when it goes there, it searches within databases you have within yourself and retrieves information that you later on say, where did that come from? Where did I get that from?
The drawers of our mind that haven't been opened for a long time.
Thank you. Doors in your mind that hadn't been opened, it's knocked on them, say, hey, we need this. Your mind then says, oh yeah, we got this. Let me give you that. And then you get that information. Then you bring it back from whatever dimension you got. Take it, then broadcast it from your mouth. And you're sitting there yourself saying, good, this is damn. I need to write this down. Where did I get this from? And once you have access to that part of your mind, there's nothing you can't do. And the ancestors are vibrations, informations that are operating in different dimensions that literally can bring you such information. They're coming from within you, but you're thinking you are actual physical. Whenever you think of your organs, this, that, and this is something we cover on the courses, your organs are, how do you say, there's the organ, then there's the intelligence that runs the organ. And the intelligence,
no conscious thought for the multiple operations that is carrying out every second of every single day. The digestion process is an intelligence that has nothing to do with conscious thought.
Nothing to do with how old are you? Nothing, because those are external concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with where's the energy source coming from. None of those things. Imagine your heart, my stomach, you said, the different acids, this, that, using to break the food. It is absolutely so intelligent that you literally, in your conscious program belief system mind, could not comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a part of your mind which you call subconscious or unconscious, which we really just say is the part of yourself you haven't accessed, is operating and working with that. So if someone says I'm dumb, it's not dumb. You're speaking of reference of what someone has told you to remember and your inability to remember it and recite it. That's what's being referred to as dumb. Yeah, that's really what it is. So therefore, you're not unintelligent. You're just not informed about the illusion around you sufficiently to convince those who create it that you're worthy of being in their company. And they need you to think in that way, order that they can trust you to perpetuate the lie that they've created for you.
110%. One of the things that I took from it, especially as in the group, and just to go into the class, because these aren't like classes. These are like 8 hours. And I think at first when we've gone on a Sunday, we've done a 10-hour class. These are really full and impactful classes that enable you to holistically not only explore, but it's the exploration that allows you to unlearn, because you're exploring with peers. So it's not like this is an instruction and you're just taking it and you're sitting there. You are fully exploring all of these concepts with peers. And that is how you actually unlearn this indoctrination that you were given through social conditioning and indoctrination that has enabled you to capitulate your whole life, where you've had that voice screaming like an invisible prison, where you're saying, this just doesn't resonate with me. Yeah. And one of the things that Edison was talking about, school, where we're indoctrinated, when I was actually in school, where my ancestors enabled me to understand that I was governing my own mind. We had the star chart that tells you you're a good boy. And I had 13 gold stars, and the closest person to me had 8. And I believe that my teacher had sent me wrongly into the corner for talking when I was helping somebody with their maths. And before I went to stand in the corner, I picked off the 13 stars on the chart and rinsed them on the ground with my foot. And that was the end of me seeking my teacher's approval. Because I said, if you could do something as unjust as this, and that was it. That was my doorway out of the matrix. And I can't tell you at this juncture of my life what happened to my mind, but I was always sitting outside like an observational documentary director, just watching. So, nah, that doesn't bode well with me. And then when I got to secondary school, I actually became the articulator who would be removed from the class. And that doesn't bode well for me. That it's a social injustice. And based on that infraction, I must become my own law administrator or the advocate of that person that I believe that it was meted out on. So for me, it took place at a very early age that I can't say ever benefited me in my life's experience. However, I was aware that there was something more, because it never, ever resonated with me. And when I got the full clarity, because you can do things unconsciously, but once you come into conscious retention, you've really just exposed me to another world. And once I became aware of my ancestors and why I'm receiving these downloads when I get in the shower, why I am a man out of time, why I have an unconventional wisdom, I became completely at peace with who and what I was and what I've been demonstrating my whole life.
I love that, because what that effectively says is, even as a child, you knew something was wrong. Yeah, you knew that what you was being given wasn't actually furthering your progress, but was controlling how you progressed and progress within a system that essentially was unjust. Yeah, the fact that the teacher wanted to praise you in one hand and basically knew that you were you challenged them, so they had to make an example of you. This is all traumatic conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
This is where instead of having a slave with a whip, you basically enslave the person's mind and whip them subtly, not overtly, and literally destroy their inner confidence to follow their own mind from when they were a child. So by the time that they get to the adult, it's like the chicken that you put the rope around its neck in trees. This is what they used to do, so that the chicken would run so far, and when it yanked its neck, it would stop running. It would run. Oh, I can't run. I can't run. I can't get beyond it because my neck's gonna get yanked. And then
That's
you
so
take the rope off the neck. And when you take the rope off the neck of the chicken, it still doesn't run beyond that point.
That's so interesting.
That as soon as it gets to that point, its neck is going to get yanked. So therefore, as a child, they condition you with all those scenarios. If you do this, the police is going to do that. If you do that, the police is going to do that. Or this, or the courts, the system. All the system is then informed you. So you're like the chicken that won't run beyond any of those systems. And it's not until you free yourself, you realize all those systems were created in order to keep you in that position. And all of those, how do you say, the people that make the law don't follow it.
Absolutely. But do you know how important what you just said was to me?
Yeah, go on.
Even in comprehending it now, is like when I was younger, I felt such a need to fight racism because I'm inside the paradigm to say, well, if you're racist, I have to fight racism. Now, I'm not taking any racism from you or any prejudice from you. What am I really fighting? But you've restricted me and reduced me to these confines where there is racism. And now if you're virtuous, you fight racism. And where was the stage where I ever said, well, outside of this paradigm, just drop all those structures. Maybe there's something else. Maybe you're just supposed to be building for yourself, your own world, your own paradigm, your own self-determined economy within your peers. And then this is why I always say via the demonstration, others can learn and adopt. Because I can't, you see, I would see young people, Black Lives Matter. I said, whoa. You know your life matters.
Why are you even taking on someone's conditioning of you? And then you take a fight against it. That shows you the argument's taking place inside you.
It's taking place inside you. So if you went home and actually started to build a business or some self-determined entity that made you all powerful and able to circumvent what do you mean circumvent racism? Well, let's say circumvent the effects. So now you are living, your whole domain lives outside of this man telling you about employment. It lives outside of you telling your children about school. It lives outside of him telling you where to be, how to be, what you can earn, your glass ceiling. You say, well, none of that impacts on me. So I don't actually experience racism. Now, our wider question where we've been trained, again, inside the reduction of us is, well, how do we give it to everybody? So, hey, live it.
That's all.
If you live it, they'll see it. And if it's attractive enough and an irresistible proposition, many will adopt it. Now, you will never, ever taste, experience, or comprehend for anybody else, which is the last time I'm going to say it. I drink rum. Edison is not going to enjoy the benefits of my elevated personality. If I eat, he can't taste it. And if I read, he can't comprehend what I'm reading, because you can only do it on your individual level. But via the manifestation of who you are and how that resonates, even in you just being, you are bending the frequency of your environment. Like those people who come into a room, just steal all the oxygen from the room and the attention. How are they bending the frequency of the environment? Spirit.
What you've said is so funny, because imagine all we've spoken about thus far is really just breaking a program in your mind.
Yeah.
The last thing I go over and I always promote, I ain't here to fight no program someone put upon me to say you're winning. You're a black guy, so effectively you have to be upset with this and that and fight. I don't have to fight anything. If you're suffering from your mental program of racism, then you're suffering from, I'm not denying the history and I'm not denying what
Absolutely.
people went through. So I'm not doing any of that, but I'm saying right now, I'm working with and within the storyline that I have. I'm working within the conditions that people believe. But then I realize that's a game, that I'm dealing with people who are in various stages of either getting out the game or being in the game.
Yeah.
Because life then becomes your religion. Life becomes your binding spell.
And I just wanted you to touch on that, because although I know some people will miss when you talk about getting in the game and getting out the game and the soul's circular journey of returning to experience elevation until we get to a stage where we just leave the game.
Well, in truth, this is where, when we speak of the consciousness, deeper down in the more advanced courses, we start really get you to realize that you're playing a game. Whenever you walk into a work environment, family environment, whatever environment, you're, first of all, you have to work out, what are the rules of the game? What can I do to have safe passage through this period or phase in my life where I don't encumber too much negative energy, unwanted energy, unnecessarily weight of people's emotional state? What do I do? So therefore I realize this is this person, that is this person. We go through all the different personality traits and realize that when a person is triggered by a set of different entities, this is the most logical pattern that they're going to follow. By knowing now I have the program, so as soon as I see that behavior pattern, I don't need to emotionally react to it. I can sit there and watch the person go through the stages of how they're playing their personal emotional game, what they're looking for, what are the big concepts that they have which are holding them back in themselves, how they need to feed off someone else in order to basically raise themselves, because they are under their own torturous, self-limiting, negative voices inside their mind. And in order for them to feel good, they need to feed off someone else. They need to take someone else's sense of good so that they can reinterpret that, create an inflated value of themselves, and then use that inflated value. But the problem is, because it's parasitical and it's not natural, they need to constantly be feeding off someone. They need you to constantly be giving them energy, praises, attention. They need that all the time so that they can raise their value within themselves. Because without that, they don't have any. So therefore, once you now get to that consciousness and realize they're in that game, they're in this game, they're in that game, they're in that game, you're no longer playing their game. The game is exactly. The game is their storyline. They get and the name of their storyline is their physical name. Whatever my name, Edison Egbanji, is the name of the game I'm personally in. And everyone else is in their own game. And the thing is, you're playing with the information that you know, looking at the rules that you understand, how to navigate through the game so that you come through least harmed, least, unscathed from certain situations. So if I'm talking with someone, straight away, they're going to reveal their emotional position. Just by not being able to control the different personalities within them shows me that they've got a lack of control of their game. And at any time, one of these personalities, which will come out of being triggered by somehow, is going to override their actions for a period of time until that energy, being angry, being subsides because it's not being fed any food. And then the real person comes back into the conversation. Once you understand all the details behind those scenarios, you realize that the person is failing at their own game. They don't have control of it. So instead of them fixing themselves, they then blame someone else.
Absolutely.
And when you start blaming someone else for what you are not able to do within yourself, you are not in power of yourself. It's easier to create guilt and shame in someone else than actually deal with yourself. And once you're in that scenario, your focus is now finding insults, finding things to constantly put that person in a state where that person feels obliged, feels guilty, feels whatever, in order to maintain you.
I just want to touch on some of the things that I'd learned from you in the class. Because when we talk about the personality, we wouldn't realize how some of them get created. I remember once you said, You know, if you were on the road and you bumped into somebody and they squared off and you wanted to fight and it didn't actually happen, well, now you might be carrying that personality to another destination. Now, you might carry that into the most serene space. You've got all of this. You haven't got rid of it. And you didn't actually have the internal conversation, not being aware of how the personalities are created. In spirit, we will call them entities. So now you're munching your gums and you're giving power to that with the hate chewing gum, and you're carrying that into another space. Now, where we punish ourselves with memories, you might think, I should have reacted to that. And you're not carrying that over to another day, into another space. So this is a personality that's excess the requirement, that's totally unnecessary, that you just didn't have the clarity to actually bring down and just breathe and say, that isn't me. That happened to me. And this is where I say your saying is so valuable. There's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with your story. And that means something happened to you. And that means you have to go in, deal with what happened to you, process it, let it go because you don't own it, and then revert back to your internal peace, which you deserve and can reward yourself with, but being aware that you can reward yourself with it.
Dean, let me even take that further. And
Please.
This is where you realize when we say the bigger picture, the much bigger picture. And if I refer to you as your game is your name, yeah? And then you're a massive PlayStation. So all day, every day, you're playing mini games inside yourself, which is just a thought cycle. So an event can take place, and that event now becomes a game. You can spend hours playing in your mind. Yeah, all of a sudden, what would I have done? What would this? What would that? And you're visualizing all the different options, choices you would have made. And if you're too enticed by that game, other things are floating by, you know, and you're missing them. Yeah. And when you can't sleep at night, why? Because you're playing games, you're playing scenarios, you're going through all these different thoughts of what you want to fix, and you become depressed when you can't find an answer to play that game and you can't have an outcome. So if you have 4 or 5 games and then people are coming to impose games on you, saying, hold on, you need to fix this. Oh, that's a new game. I haven't finished that game yet. This is a new game. I haven't finished that game yet. You're playing 20 games at one time and failing at all of them because you don't have enough time and energy to actually finish a game, lock it off, move on, which is finish a thought, take it from creation to the end, termination, find a conclusion, leave it, put it aside, and move on. And when you're in stressful environments, is because you don't have the capacity to play all the games that are being presented to you at one time. So when someone is ill mentally, it's because you've got a game that you're losing at. You can't find a conclusion. And if someone comes along, or you can pass your game onto them, you can now make them responsible for finishing the game that you've started in your brain. And now you're not going to have to work out how to fix your game. You're just going to have to blame them and chastise them for saying, look, my game is still going on in my head. It's hurting me. You haven't come with a solution yet. Come with a solution to fix the game going on in my head. And when you've done that, I can release something to you so that you now feel good about the game that me and you are playing.
Yeah.
That's what being moody is. Being moody is, oh God, my game is not going well. Can you fix my game for me? And you're like, oh, okay, let me fix your game.
You would attempt, but you cannot taste, comprehend,
like you said, or drink or anything. So you can't fix their game because you don't know what level it's impacting on them. All you can look at is their reaction and say, am I doing well? Am I doing okay? And that's all you got. And if the person has abandoned any responsibility of fixing their game and put it all on you, now you're unable to play your game.
And I've got to reward you with the solace of your own time.
And that's it. They're only going to give you space to go and play your own game. That's your only reward for actually trying to find a way. And this is where many of us are. When we get down to it, we get down to the place of, are you playing your own personal game well? Have you got control of games that you're manifesting within yourself? Do you have time to get to the conclusion of them? And this is where people are not living their life. They're
Absolutely.
not living their game. And people are trying to reduce your game and tell you to fix your game, giving you an end destination, heaven, hell, all this different stuff. You're not actually appreciating the days of your life where you're giving your energy to help them live their game.
And that is worship in a form, in
Thank
that
you.
you're adopting their program. And the greatest thing we can do is being present, is being now, which is the gift. Because as you said, it's the only thing that exists.
Only thing that
There
exists.
is no past, there is no future. There is just right now. What we are doing and experiencing right now, we can take ourselves out of time by imagining this is only a finite period if it doesn't feel like it's benefiting us right now. But what the thing that exists is what is happening right now. That's why I don't have any fear, because I don't have any observed negative fantasies about what is going to happen in the future.
Thank you.
Based on what I'm actually doing now, and if I observe there's going to be a particular challenge down the line, I will start to place, as a reverse engineer, solutions so that I can absorb that impact if it actually does arrive. But what I'm not going to do is tell myself negative stories that negative outcome is inevitable, because that's where all fear lives, based on our imagination of an inevitable negative outcome that just doesn't exist outside of your mind, the confines of your mind.
So, as a creator, could I claim that you're a game builder?
Yeah, we become the builders of our own game.
And a future is really just a game you're building with the data that you've got. And you basically played it like a computer. You created a, what do you call it, component. And now you're running a whole program through that component to see what is the end result. And 9 out of 10 times, that's all we're continuously doing. Now, when you're in the present moment, very rare are you visually in the present moment.
Yeah.
You're often flicking between past situations and future situations. So you're doing something mundane, but your brain is elsewhere. Yeah. Now, the thing is, wherever you're looking at is where you are. And this really is a breakdown of the fact that you're looking at different parts of your own memory mind creation. Future memories that you're creating in the present. Yeah, because when you look at the future, you're really looking at a memory that you're building a memory in your mind for a physical outcome that you see in the future. So therefore, all you're really doing is really just building a game that you're about to play.
But do you know how I break it down now?
Sure.
I break it down into tasks that I have to execute rather than looking at this big picture of a future. So whilst I'm doing tasks now and I'm receiving my downloads, I say that task will add to the future that you actually desire, whilst seeing a fuzzy picture, but saying it is appreciating this now, this right now. And what I found even is funny this week, I've spoken to 3 people that have told me, you need to do that, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And I said, okay, I hear you. But I sat down in my own solace between November and December, and I made a complete project with milestones that I'm actually executing now, which I haven't articulated to you.
No, you don't.
I don't care to, because I'm not trying to convince you.
Exactly, 100%.
You could be so much further, and people know you. I said, well, people know me on a tiny little scale, which is irrelevant to anything. And because I am now partway in a new venture by creating awareness, I'll continue to do what I've been doing. And I've roadmapped the tasks that I need to execute that don't rely on anybody's permission, that aren't harming anybody else, that aren't interrupting anybody else's joy, that nobody has had the courtesy to ask me, what is your process on what you're doing? I'm just going to continue to stick to that. And the plan is to stick to the plan. And I'm fine with it. And although I hadn't made plan for this particular juncture of my day, I'm still appreciating being in the moment of this day. And I'm not trying to convince you, because I have no monkey in that circus.
Look, someone is trying to give you their process. as opposed to you developing your own. And theirs is an internal conversation with their ancestors, with their
which they
voices.
haven't made manifest. Don't tell me, show me.
Exactly.
And if you can't show me, I'm on a train, which I know the destination of, because I've been on this train before.
Thank you. And where someone is, again, trying to use your energy to manifest their reality.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing it yourself, you know, when someone says, I'm a great fighter, no one who's a great fighter says they're a great fighter. No one does. Whenever you have to say a thing, you're basically trying to convince yourself of that thing. People that do it, they just, in their own mind, I want to do this, and their body responds and they get it done. Or they train and teach their body to do things autonomically without them thinking. So they constantly react and block things when they essentially, because they've trained themselves to do it. They can't tell you how. They just prepared for that situation. Yeah. And we live in a world where everyone is telling you a story that they haven't lived. If they've lived it, then they don't need to tell it. You know,
I can see it and I can adopt it. Agree, adopt, apply.
Well, this is where you look at someone who is being successful and follow them, not someone who's telling you they're successful. If they need to tell you, they need to reassure a part of their mind that they have value. So straight away, you're looking at, is there an entity? Is there a narc frequency there that needs to raise the child? Because the child had some situations take place. So they created an energy with their scattered mind that allowed them to be whole in this new identity that they've created. And this new identity has to be winning, has to be doing this, has to be doing that.
No vulnerabilities.
No vulnerability.
No down days.
No accountability, nothing. Whatever you say is your fault. Whatever they say is their wisdom. You got to take it on. And they can't feel any pain of losing the power of being in control of that idea of who they are. So you can walk that road if you want to, but you're always going to be begging someone else to be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Where you can just take care of yourself. And it's not being antisocial. It's not being awkward or arrogant. It's just that you're playing your own game, because only you can feel the impact of your thoughts and your actions. Other people will reinterpret it based on their experiences within themselves. So where you might turn around and think, I didn't hurt anyone, the other person is reeling because they could have had that done 10 times. And you have just triggered an old memory in them that's put them in a basically physical situation, because the memory, every memory has an emotion attached to it.
Yeah.
That's why we give priority to that memory. This is why we hide behind memories, or we basically protect ourselves from memories.
Yeah.
So when you're languaging, you're speaking to someone, you're really just triggering different thoughts in themselves. You're triggering different images that they're creating, and they're then creating different emotions. That's why people like what you say or don't like what you say based on a past of what you've said and how they've stored emotions connected to that past.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to become the master of your mind. And this is where, when we're saying, we call the course Know Thyself, really on the basis of you don't know yourself from someone's history of you. Woke isn't because you've got all this knowledge of what took place. Woke is when you've awakened.
Absolutely.
Your consciousness has now become alive. It's become prevalent. It's now processing reality from a position where it has a choice. It's not processing reality from fear, where if I don't do this, I'm going to end up here and I'm going to end up there. And you don't know where here there is. And whoever told you never been there. So if they've been there, then that's a different thing.
You just said something that really resonated with me that I want to bring up, because it's not the intellectual knowing. Knowing is being able to apply. And I will say that one thing when I really first started the course is that my intellect was interrupting my spirituality. As I said, when I say that I engaged entities that were very powerful, the minute that I totally freed myself from what I knew intellectually, I became powerful enough to engage things outside of our plane.
Yeah.
I was able to transcend veils that my intellect would tell me I couldn't go beyond.
Yeah.
And even in terms of taking charge of how I manifest in a room in terms of vibration, I had to just subdue my intellect, because all of that was informed by the programming from society. And that has reduced me. And what this has actually done is expanded how I can actually impact anything that I'm meeting and going forward.
If you imagine that someone is either imposing on you, yeah, or raising you, one of the two, any sort of system that you're supposed to be following is supposed to be creating a roadmap to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that wants to put you under worship or raise the person or see them as some sort of guru or what have you is the individual indulging in ego. Yeah. The only thing that matters is that you understand what we're trying to do. And the only evidence or certificate you need is your progress. Yeah. Not someone giving you some paperwork to say, you completed listening to me for so much period. No, that's no good.
No awards.
Do with that.
No qualification certificate.
No qualifications. The qualification is that you now have control over the reactions of the different programs within you. And even though we speak technically and all this, and it says this is spiritual, no, we're not speaking in hope and worship and pray 5 days. No, none of that has any relevance to me. When they say, do you pray? I say, what, to myself? They say, what, to a God? I said, a God's greater than me? I said, how? I'm the one who creates everything that happens. They said, oh, did you create outside this, that, this? Ask a blind man what outside looks like. And all of a sudden you say, but he can't see. He can't see what? He can't see outside. So why can't he see outside? Because he can't create outside. As an image is in his mind, he can't create it. What the image that you see is what you decide is outside or inside. You're judging the images you're creating. You're labeling the images that you're creating in your mind. Ask a blind man what the stars look like. He's never seen the stars. He can't tell you what it is. Why can you see it? Because you can create the image. You can take the data and process it. What you are is a machine that is creating an experience. And you're generating emotions from that experience so that, like a PlayStation, because we're going to go there, because that's where you live at the end of the day, your body becomes the joystick.
Yeah.
And everything that you see on the screen, you're transferring to your body as a physical experience.
Even if you've deferred the control of that over to somebody else.
You're still doing that. But guess who's playing the game all the time? It's the consciousness. That is you, the consciousness. That's the one playing the game. So when we're talking about spirituality, we're speaking about the ownership, the ability to control your consciousness, not who you pray to, not what you can bring, not what you can manifest. You manifest pictures, images in your mind day in, day out. Yeah. Manifestation is the creation of the image in your imagination. That's what manifestation is. Yeah. Do you get to see a certain thing? Yes. But what does that bring you? Momentary joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not long-term joy. All the things you manifest. Yes, I want the car. So I can look at the car and then I can generate some sort of chemical reward from having this physical item. When someone who's never seen a car doesn't need a car. You have to see it. Someone has to adopt and give you the program before you have a wanting for it. Yeah, certain people have never experienced certain things in relationship. So when people are speaking, oh yeah, they did this, they did that. Really? They did that? I didn't even know I didn't have that because I never imagined anyone could do that. So you didn't miss it. And guess what? You lived your life perfectly well, never knowing that that thing didn't even exist or existed. Yeah. Your life is the sum of the experiences and the information that you have to build it. Yeah. You are a game visual builder. You are one of these computer bots. And that's what your consciousness is using, information to progress, to create. And you said something which was interesting. Your life documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's our operating system.
that's it. That's all you're watching. You're watching the greatest movie that ever was, and that's your own life.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
So, so as we're winding down, because I really could be on there for 8 hours with
We
Edison.
could,
And
and
that's
you know how it is. I can do that in a
concourse.
heartbeat. But I love
Tell
what
us,
we had, and I love this conversation. Yeah.
tell us how long the course is and when it starts, sir. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link in the description of this video.
Well, the course is 10 weeks, yeah, where we go on a journey within yourself. Yeah, where we initially, each week, obviously is a new topic, but each week is going deeper into yourself. Initially starting with the whole ancestors thing, then trying to demystify this whole religion thing, because the problem that we have is the religion, as you said, creates the intellect and the programs which prevent us from going within ourselves, because all these religions externalized everything and gave you a destination that you didn't know how to get to without following their thing. No one can show me how to get to heaven yet. And unless I followed their route map, which was to serve them, then I hoped and prayed that that place would be my destination one day. So we have to get those things out of those, because these are just memories and attachments in your mind with certain emotions that people have programmed, so that you're in a situation where now I want to end up in heaven. And the old concept is, can I eat 3 meals or 4 meals in one day? And obviously in 1 week. Yeah. So how could you drink milk and eat honey or what have you for the rest of your eternity? Yeah, you can't even. So therefore, you know, the concept of it, people still have a juvenile idea behind the word and don't actually appreciate that it's not a reality. And we try to go beyond the reality when we start going into how you connect to your ancestors, how you travel to those dimensions, how we clear off all the thoughts that you've attached to yourself over the years, because you don't appreciate that you are discharging electricity. You're discharging your thoughts into your environment through your skin, and your body is heavy with your previous thoughts. So you need to clear that out of your system. Clear your home. That's another week. Your spiritual mind, when we start going into how your organs, every organ in your body has a different name. How can I have the different name from you and have an organ that's the same name? Does that even begin to make any sense? Your organ must have your heart, or what you perceive as your heart, is unique to you, operating on a different frequency with its own name, with its own vibration, with its own intelligence. We have to start going into that stuff, because then you can separate yourself from the individual and realize you're a community of different intelligences operating in one, looks like one sphere, which is your body.
But it's an ecosystem.
It's 100, the most intelligent, sophisticated. So when someone says they're dumb, they don't know this, their body is a genius.
Highly intelligent.
Highly intelligent. But they are
self-repairing.
And manifestation. How can you grow new bone? How can you grow new bone? But then how can you grow food? How do how do you do anything? How do you grow?
And none of it should be a mystery when we realize that we actually connect sperm with eggs that grows into bone and flesh.
Look, the sperm has not one solid part in it. So imagine the level of intelligence that it can amalgamate with an egg that doesn't have a solid bit in it, and then manifest all these solid bits. And the bone, and there's so much more that's going on inside you. We do that, then we go into the whole sexual paradigm, where your sexual spiritual health, because that, how do we put it? We are mixing with energies, thoughts, feelings, realities, histories with everyone we interact with. And when you physically interact, that's what I refer to as the original marriage, not the ring. Absolutely. It's really the ring of you two coming together, because you two are exchanging much more than vows. Vows are just words. You two are exchanging all your memories, genetic material, everything with that person, all your frequencies, all your thoughts, all your energy. So we start to delve into that so that you're basically more mindful, and you're now realizing what you need to clear, because you could have some ex-girlfriend from way back and some ex-boyfriend from way back, and their frequency is still within you. And it's still dictating behavior patterns that you adopted whilst you was in that relationship. And you think you moved on. You moved aside. You haven't moved on. It's still there. The person's still there. So we have to help you go through that. The week 8, I think we go through programs to realize all that we've been saying here. You're not fighting anyone. You're fighting a belief program and the attachments to your judgments of that program. And when someone has upset you, they haven't upset your consciousness. They've upset your program. Yeah, that's what they've essentially done. So yeah, they've upset your program. And that's all we're really dealing with. Week 9, we start talking about your past lives and how who you are started way before you arrived. And your wants, wishes, ilks, things like that come from ancient aspects of yourself that was here before you arrived here. You're born here. You didn't start here. Yeah. And then week 10, we go through the fun bit of you basically learning your own language, which is the language that you were born with. Yeah. The one that came from where you came from. You already had a name for everything in your life way before you arrived. And we have you go through and pick up all those memories of everything you've been through all the way through your life, so that you can now start to speak in a language, which is the language that your body actually speaks. Now, even though we say foundation, it's not, that's when we say it's not, to say it's difficult is incorrect, because we're not asking you to retain or remember anything. The challenge will be the programs that you already have, and now how those programs are going to be challenged by the information that's going to try and get you back in control of yourself.
To interrupt the reception of those messages. Absolutely. I attest to that.
We defer to these programs in every thought and everything. So straight away, when I'm going to get up, what do I do? Oh, what's the road lines? What's this? What's that? What's this? And before you know, you've gone through a dozen different programs of how you can even leave the house. And then you're there not wanting to break any of those rules that these programs have uploaded to you. Oh no, I got to walk along the path. I can't do this. I can't. So therefore, we need to basically challenge all of these things, especially in that program week where we do that. But also, your body speaks another language. English or French or Spanish or whatever language are programmed languages. Your consciousness speaks in another language. We want you to get back to that.
Some will be very surprised when they discover.
Oh, when they start doing it, they hear it in the back of their head.
Yeah.
And when they do week 3 and they go through speaking to their ancestors and connecting it, which is effectively unconsciously making you a medium. When they say it's a medium, we don't refer to it as a medium course, but the mediumship is a byproduct of the course.
And it does. And I just like to say one of my personal experiences in that my aunt actually came to me, and it was funny, after the Sunday lesson on the Monday, she came to me. Now, she wasn't the ancestor I was calling on.
Come like that Black Panther. What am I doing with this guy? I don't want to see this guy. Yeah,
but she's the one who came to me on the Monday after a Sunday lesson. So it is very powerful.
Yeah, it is. And it's all that, it's not a gift. It's something that we all do all the time. And it's really just to reawaken what was already there. As I always say, I can't teach you anything. I can just remind you of what you're capable of doing. Yeah. That's why it is know thyself. It's not me trying to imprint a new program on you. And this, again, is just through my journeys and my connection to my ancestors, 20, 30 years now, what have you, and the journey that they've taken me on. But it's been conscious. I've been aware that I've been on a journey, and I've been aware that I don't know. Yeah. So there's no ego saying, I know it. No, I'm not trying to say that. But what I do know, we can share. And then all we want you to become is an autonomy within your autonomous self. So now you're changing the way in which you interact with reality, because you're doing it from a position of choice, not I have to do it. This is what we're supposed to do. So therefore, you're creating a frequency to bring what you need to yourself, not what someone suggests that you should have in order that you look good in their eyes. You'll never satisfy everyone outside of you. And if they're telling you that you need this or need that in order to be recognized, then recognized by them. And God bless them and God bless you if that's what you think you need to do. But we won't be using no God bless in our cause. But yeah, carry on.
I want to thank Edison for his time.
Dean,
look for the link in the description. If you really desire to understand how this world is governed through us, not by these external powers who will call themselves elite or teachers of wisdoms that we believe we can't access, I recommend this course for anybody who wants to improve themselves in ways that this system will never, ever be able to reward you with. Look for the link, go to the website, be curious. And please, anything, yes.
Sorry, the date is the 21st, Sunday the 21st. So literally it's a month from today. Yeah?
Excellent.
We start at 1 o'clock. That is the aim anyhow. We start at 1 o'clock and it's normally, we're going to try and shut it down to 5 or 6 hours. But honestly, because it's organic and essentially it's one of those things where we don't speak to you, the story, we speak to you, the consciousness living the story. So that part of you never tires. It doesn't really have any muscles to move because it's pure energy. And literally all we're trying to do is to feed that part of you so that you realize, hold on, I don't need to manifest this. I don't need to create that. I don't need to put myself through stress. Because remember, you create stress as a byproduct. You create stress. Stress doesn't come to you. You create it as an overwhelmment of all the games that you're playing and not being able to basically finish any of them. And you become stressed over that.
And it's just a lack of experience and understanding, which is gained from the course.
This is it. This is where we're trying to go to. We do have other levels, so it never finishes at that point. And we can't really go in. We could tell you about the next courses where we go even deeper and we start ancestral councils and stuff like that. So all the stuff you've heard of in all these spiritual kind of things, we go into that and see and show you, you don't need drugs. You don't need to take anything.
You don't need anything
for yourself. Nothing.
Nothing.
You don't need no church, no holy place, no mad, big, massive altar.
It's all a game, and economic acquisition at the end of the game. We are born with, just like our bodies are informed as a great intelligence to grow to the position where we are now. We have everything we need, and it's just the clarity of how to access that to benefit us. That's exactly what spiritual systems are.
That's what they should be, and that's what they're meant to be. They're not meant to be, you've now memorized tons of books and tons of things, and you can quote this, and then you end up being in a position where you're quoting stories. Oh yeah, I heard the story that way. You're not quoting.
It's more intellect, which has nothing to do with spirit. Nothing.
Your consciousness is intellect in the story and the game you're playing, not your consciousness traveling into past lives, into other dimensions, into internal councils where you start to see these things are commonplace. But Dean, we could chat forever.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we
could. I'm so grateful. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and thank you for bringing out those questions and bringing that out of me, because as we always say, the answer is only as good as the question asked.
If you want a better answer, ask a better question.
Exactly. That will get you there. So no,
thanks for watching.
No worries. Thank you for anyone who watched.
Thank you, bro.
We welcome you when we see you next month. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right.